Welcome to Fun with Annuities with your host, me, Stan, the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent. Can annuities be fun? Can contractual guarantees be fun? Absolutely they can. Find out the brutal facts about annuities with no sales pitches or high-pressure nonsense. Just the brutal and factual annuity truth, which is all you need to hear. Let's have some fun with annuities, and let's have that fun start right now. Welcome to Fun with Annuities. I'm your host, Stan, the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent, licensed in all 50 states, as you know. Welcome to everybody on all the major podcast platforms and on the Fun with Annuities YouTube channel, where you can see the dashingly good looks of both of me and my guest. Actually, my guest, not me. You know what I look like, for goodness sakes. But I'm very happy to have a brand new person on Fun with Annuities. And listen, this guy, you're going to love this guy. Andy Panko is his name, P-A-N-K-O. Born in Delaware, went to University of Delaware, got all the degrees, then went to go Blue Hens, by the way, and then went to Rutgers University and got some extra stuff, go Scarlet Knights. But kind of like me, has been all over the place from the standpoint of working for firms and working for, global insurance companies and banking firms and all that stuff. And then he realized that's not what he wanted to do. His passion was personal finance. There's a story in there that I'll let him tell you, but he is the owner of Tenant, I think that's the way it's pronounced, Financial, T-E-N-O-N, and all of that stuff's going to be on my site. He's going to have his page. All of our celebrity guests do have their own page on the site. You can get all their stuff and email them and all that good stuff. He has a separate tax return preparation filing company called Tenant Tax Preparation. I found him through a Facebook group called Taxes in Retirement. One of my clients turned me on to him. That's how I found him. And he has a great YouTube channel called Retirement Planning Demystified. And I'll have all of that on there. So without further ado, welcome, Andy. I appreciate you joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. Super happy to be here, and I appreciate the offer.
Couple things before we get started. We're both musicians. Andy is an admitted sucker for mandolins and banjos. I just bought a banjo the other day. And I just bought an amplified Flying V banjo.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. What? Yes.
Yeah. I have no musical abilities. I cannot play these instruments, but I love the way they sound.
So it's a lot. Anyone who says they're really good at guitar hasn't met a really good guitarist. Obviously I dink around with it and I'm not that good. But one of the things and we're going to jump into financial stuff, I promise everybody. But when I have a person on the show that's actually done some stand-up comedy at Caroline's Comedy Club at Times Square and has done, has been on TV. He was a contestant on HGTV's All-American Handyman. I mean, you talk about a diversified cat. All right, I'm going to hand it to you, Andy. Let's go from here. Wow, that's a lot. I'm going to ask you a joke later. You're going to end this thing with a joke. But tell me about the non-joke, which is people's retirement and financial planning.
Sure. So business name is Tenant Financial.
I called it Tenant because I'm from the South, and that's how we pronounce things. But
then that's accurate. Then go with it. Yeah, it's like here in New Jersey we say insurance. The rest of the country says insurance.
Insurance. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Right. But and also born in New Jersey, not born in Delaware.
I was born in Delaware. That's right.
Yeah, did go to school in Delaware, but born in New Jersey. So go Bruce Springsteen and bagels and not pumping our own gas. New Jersey all the way. So retirement planning. Quick background. I wanted to be a financial advisor when I graduated University of Delaware in 2000. Went to school there for finance. Didn't know what an advisor does or what the job looks like. I just knew I wanted to help people with money decisions, basically. Interviewed at a lot of large household name places, insurance companies and brokerage firms that everyone listening and watching has heard of, and wasn't what I thought it would be. Not knocking products, but they were all just sell this loaded mutual fund or sell this insurance or gather assets. There's no talk of advice or planning or general guidance. So kind of got disenfranchised, gave up on the idea, and stumbled into an actuarial role at a large major insurer on the corporate side, not sales, not advising, just helping price and value and understand. It was a particular type of pension product I worked on. And then also worked on their general account for a little bit, helping manage that, and moved on to beyond that. Fast forward. So that was early 2000. Spent most of my career in institutional banking and in global capital markets, largely financing hedge funds and private equity funds with derivative trades, with prime brokerage, doing risk management of that. And made good money, did cool things, worked with a lot of great people, but always wasn't quite fulfilled, wanted to do something more direct with people, actually helping individuals, not helping other banks or hedge funds or private equity funds. And was still always interested in personal finance. What really sort of changed my future and career trajectory was 2016, I believe it was. My mother was transitioning into retirement. She was already working with a traditional percent of assets under management advisor at a large place we all heard of. And my mom was trying to figure out how to claim Social Security. And she has one of the hairier scenarios where she's divorced from my dad. She's of an age where she can still do the restricted application, to get her benefits or his and take hers later. And her advisor wasn't able to help her really iron out that decision and apparently didn't know all of the Social Security nuances well enough to give her a firm, committed answer. Yes, you can or cannot do this strategy. So that's when I got involved, knew nothing about Social Security. I thought it was basically personal savings accounts, 4 savings accounts that the government set up for us. And just learned a tremendous amount. And in researching Social Security, like the light went off. The proverbial light went off over my head. It was like, yes, this is the advice and planning and help that I thought existed, that I thought I wanted to do, 16 years prior when I wanted to be an advisor. And I realized, yeah, okay, this is it. This Social Security decision is probably the most impactful thing my mom can do for her financial future. It's not farting around and overcomplicating the mutual fund allocation decision. It's not all the other stuff that typical advisors normally do. Not to say they're unimportant, but that's not the real value in many cases. So that got me thinking, like, wow, what if there's a way to do a business where you really are giving planning and guidance? And yeah, you can still do investments. And yeah, insurance is important. They need to be considered, but the focus should be on the planning and the guidance and the advice. So that got me on a path of just researching and learning. And I came across a few podcasts and blogs that blew the lid off for me, specifically the XY planning group. And I was like, wow, there are people out there who have businesses and fee models that are either just advice or advice and investments, but with the focus on the advice, the planning. And it is like, yep, this is it. And the more I listened, the more I read, I realized I can do things. I can start a business giving financial advice the way I think it should be given, charging how I think people should be charged for it, focusing on what I want to focus on. I always knew taxes were important, and that most advisors sorry, we don't do tax planning.
Sure.
Because there's tax implications to virtually everything in a financial life. And that was kind of it. That was 2016. And from that point forward, I was like, yep, let me do this and do it by my terms. And while I'm at it, let me try to change my life up so I don't have to schlep to and from New York. So I live in New Jersey, worked in Manhattan, long commute to and from every day, long hours, kind of shackled to a desk, 8 to 6. And I was just like, let me just completely pivot, not just the work I do, but how I do it. Let me work from home, work for myself, by myself. And it all culminated, and I decided 2019 would be the year I leave my old life and start up my own solo retirement planning investment management business, Tenant Financial, and here I am.
And Tenant Financial now is just at full capacity. We talked about that before. And just for people keeping score, Andy is a certified financial planner. Andy is a retirement income certified professional, RICP, and he also is an enrolled agent with the IRS. So yes, when he talks about taxes, he can talk about taxes because he's qualified to talk about taxes because the IRS has deemed him qualified to talk about taxes. So I think that's, and when you talk, I think that's fantastic, because if you're going to get tax advice, the person needs to know what the heck they're talking about. There's a lot of people that lead with tax advice and then try to sell you something.
Sure.
When you retirement planning demystified, define and go into the demystification when you started taking it apart the way you thought it should be taken apart, and then presenting it to people as this is the way it should be. What did that look like, and what does that look like?
So it sounds super cheesy and hokey and cliche, but it's genuinely true. I am an educator at heart. I have taught at Rutgers for their graduate school of business. I taught 4 or 5 semesters there teaching finance. I also am, not that I have, but I'm certified to teach high school in New Jersey. So if I ever want to go teach there, I got my certification to teach in high school. So I truly enjoy the educating, the teaching, the explaining. Maybe part of it's I like hearing myself talk, which very well could be a bit of it, but
you got me riveted.
So I enjoy teaching. And what happened was, let's back up. So I started Tenant Financial November 2019 from true zero, no clients, no revenue. And I was doing this stuff I thought advisors are supposed to do to drum up business. I was doing local library seminars, trying to capture emails and phone numbers.
Yeah.
I was taking out estate planning attorneys and CPAs to lunch, the centers of influence marketing. I joined the local Chamber of Commerce and went to one of their mixers. And I mean, not much was working, but it was only a few months. And then COVID happened, 3 or 4 months into me starting the business, and all that shut down. Right? No more library seminars, no more lunches, no more mixers. And I was like, man, now what? This isn't cool. So I started getting active online. I already had a Twitter page, a LinkedIn page, a Facebook business page, and none of them really were clicking. But I started a Facebook group. I'll get to the YouTube thing, I swear. Started a Facebook group called Taxes in Retirement. I knew I wanted to have a very clear focus on retirement planning from a tax efficiency perspective, hence the name Taxes Retirement. There's other retirement planning groups out there, but I was like, let me be the tax guy. Let me pitch the tent as the Taxes and Retirement spot. And did that and just started posting things, answering questions, sharing others' articles and things. And it took off within months. It just, joiners are fast and furious. Now it's over 25,000 people, I think. But another month or two after that, I decided, let me not pigeonhole myself and how people perceive me as just the tax guy, because I do and know and provide broader financial and retirement planning, including investments, including, again, insurance. I don't sell insurance. I intentionally do not have licenses, but I work on a few good platforms and have good connections that I refer people to. And so in an effort to not be just the tax guy, I thought, let me start a YouTube channel and have it called something more general, hence Retirement Planning Demystified. There's the name doesn't key in on just tax. And why Demystified? I frankly don't know. I knew I didn't want to be, again, pigeonholed as just tax. It's still largely tax focused, the stuff I discussed, but I wanted to come off as a broader thing with an educational focus. And I just sort of like, let me go with Demystified. Because I think, and I've been told by, the professors I worked for and students I had and people I talked to, that I'm fairly good at breaking things down and educating and taking, complex topics and making them palatable and digestible in plain English. So I figured, let me call it Demystified. Because yes, retirement planning has a lot going on. There's a lot to unpack. But if I can parse out bits at a time and break those down into plain English for folks, then I like to think I'm helping to demystify it. So that's the YouTube video channel.
Couple things that I think people would find interesting about you is kind of your view on life. You have 3 things, and you wrote. I'll tell them to people, and I just loved it. His 3 things that he looks at on life is anything worth doing is worth doing well. Number 1, which I like. Number 2, don't take yourself too seriously. I'll add what I put on the end of that, but be serious about what you do, obviously his. And then the 3rd thing is be nice. And I don't know if you took the 3rd one from Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. Remember he's talking to the bouncers. He goes, be nice. Well, what if they be nice? And I think that's a lost art because a lot of people out here think they're masters of the universe. And they're not. And I think it's refreshing that you look at things from a very pragmatic standpoint. I would encourage everybody at this point. I'm just going to promote for Andy. He has a newsletter. It's free. I would sign up for it. Go to his Facebook group. Sign up for it. Go to his YouTube channel. So Taxes in Retirement, 3 words, Facebook group, and Tenon, but in the South we call it Tenon. Tenon Financial. And what's the address there, Andy?
It's tenantfinancial.com.
Tenant Financial, TENON Financial, all one word.com.
Yep.
Sign up for his newsletter list. Tell us about the YouTube channels. Taken off. Obviously, we would love to, with your permission, add you as one of those channels we approve of for our people to look at on our YouTube channel. Tell us about that YouTube channel and not the goals, but what drives you there and what people will find from the standpoint of categories and playlist and things like that.
Sure. So the goal with that, and I started all this stuff not really knowing what I exactly wanted from it. I mean, I'd be lying if I were to say I didn't want clients and business development, and
Sure.
It's worked. But I hate sales. I cringe at the thought of having to sell in the traditional sense. So I never wanted to have a traditional lead capture where it's like, hey, give me your email and I'll give you this free handout, or sign up for my webinar, give me your name and phone number and you're on my marketing list. I know that stuff works and I understand why, but it's not me. So I wanted to get as much content out there to do a few things. One, again, I truly enjoy, maybe it's I like hearing myself talk, but I truly enjoy just feeling like I'm educating and helping. And I knew I needed exposure, especially since COVID shut down physical interactions. So I thought this would be a great way to get exposure. And specifically by doing video, people can see me, hear me, know what I look like, get my mannerisms, get my corny dad jokes. So they feel like they know me if and when they ever decide to consider me for a paid engagement. Like they, in theory, are already comfortable with me. They know what to expect and what not to expect. So anyway, the YouTube channel was, let me just make deep dive, educational, again, plain English, try to break things down so that any reasonably intelligent adult can understand it. And I started by doing formally scripted stuff. You know, I was literally had my iPhone with a teleprompter app that I'd look at and read, and that's how I recorded. So the first few dozen videos I did were that. And it was scripted, 10, 15 minutes long, with slides and overlays and charts. And I did a whole series on annuities.
Nice.
You know, fixed, indexed, and variable, and even QLACs. And again, technical, pretty long form. It's not like the typical clickbait 3-minute videos with a flashy page, like 5 things you have to do today, and you click into it and it's all just fluff. There's no pomp and flair. This is just like meat and potatoes content that I can look at analytics. A lot of people drop off pretty early on, but those that truly want sort of an academic based but plain English deep dive into things, that's who I'm trying to speak to. And it seems to be resonating. So, you know, now it's over 10,000 people. I started it, I don't even know what year it is. It's less than 2 years ago.
Sure.
Growing fairly well. It's 15 to 20 something people a day joining. And that was kind of it. So I started with those scripted ones. And then what I also do is in my Facebook group, I do a weekly live video every Wednesday night, typically a deep dive in a certain topic, but with live Q&A from people in the group. And I would also replay those post up replays of those videos to the YouTube channel. Now those are like an hour to an hour and a half. Those are really long form. But again, for the people who are looking for that,
right,
it seems to be solid gold.
I was just going to say it's a Jerry Seinfeld gold. It's gold. You know, people are used to advisors that you enter an agreement with them and their fees are based on the size of your investment accounts, etc. I think what's unique about what you do, and once again, you are book solid, but you are trying to figure out how to refer to people that you trust, et cetera, that follow your guidelines. But for you, it's a flat annual fee. It doesn't matter if you have $20 million or $2 million or $500,000 or whatever. And I think when people are looking for a trusted fiduciary partner, which is, I guess, what you are, that provides financial, tax, the whole shooting match, that flat annual fee seems like a bargain. What landed you there? Just the fact that made sense to you, or that no one was really doing it right in that space?
It's a mix of things. It's a bit of both. So my experiences trying to get into the industry, again, go back to when I was in college, and the jobs called financial advisor were just commission sales. Sure. And not knocking commission sales, but I didn't feel that was the way. I wanted to give advice. I don't want to sell product. And getting paid for consummation of a product transaction. You're not paid for the quality or quantity of advice you give.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to ultimately go. Even the percent of assets, which is what the vast majority of advisors do,
Mm-hmm.
is a far from perfect fee model. And
Sure.
it never really seemed right to me. And I worked professionally in the percent of AUM model, again, dealing with hedge funds, private equity funds most of my career.
And for the people out there, AUM means assets under management in the business.
Right.
That's what that means.
And I saw and knew what goes into managing money, managing investments, and I knew the amount of time, effort, resources, expertise needed wasn't directly related to asset size. Asset size alone is frankly quite arbitrary in determining the effort and time and resources and whatever it takes to do that process and service those clients. So I was always thinking there's got to be a better way. I mean, frankly, I think pure hourly is the most equitable, but it's never going to work for ongoing advisory relationships because clients will be reluctant to pick up the phone or send an email for fear of running the clock.
That's true.
But in theory, that's the most fair model. But again, won't work for ongoing. I'm sure some people do it, but it's never going to fully catch on. Next to that, I feel the best model is some sort of complexity based, where you're using complexity as a measure of your time and expertise and resources provided. So in principle, I like the idea of complexity based, but the more you try to make a model to accurately account for complexity, the model becomes unwieldy, the fee structure becomes unwieldy. I'm like, man, that's not really going to do it either. Mm-hmm. So I figured, and part of the reason why flat fee works is that I have a very tightly defined universe of clients I wanted to work with. They're all more or less going to be in the same stage of life, have the same general level of complexities, all have the same general planning needs. Mm-hmm. So asset size is frankly irrelevant. Now I do draw limits. I mean, I sort of draw a line in the sand at about 10 million in net worth because I realize at higher levels of assets, yes, there is more complexity, estate planning, creative uses of insurance and whatever. You have to worry about death taxes, inheritance, and estate taxes. So I stop there. So I don't, charge a flat fee for people with $100 million. I'll just say no to them. Mm-hmm. And then on the downside, so here's the flaw with percent of assets under management. As I said, the work isn't linear to the asset size. Advisors shouldn't make more money just because assets go up. Now, advisors can fool themselves in thinking they're providing alpha and deserve it, but no. Vast majority of advisors, there's a lot of beta, market-based moves in their portfolio. Sure. That the market is what makes assets go up. And so advisors kind of overcharge in a lot of cases with clients, for clients that have a lot of assets. But on the flip side, advisors shouldn't be paid less just because the markets go down. They're still doing the same amount of work, providing the same services, et cetera. So I was like, let me come up with a fee, knowing that I have the same kind of homogenous pool of clients that all sort of want and need the same things from me. Let me come up with a fee that I think is fair for the value and service and resources I'll be providing, where asset size, frankly, doesn't matter at all. And I could truly say that. I actually have many cases where clients with $1 million are a lot more work and time than clients with $5 million. Mm-hmm. Yet traditional percent of asset model would have the higher asset clients paying 2 to 5 times more, which is ridiculous. So that's how I came up with the flat fee. It made a lot of sense in my head, and I can't think of any other professional service where outside of investment management where the fee is in effect means tested or you pay based on how much you have. Right. The one case I came up with, which makes sense, is lawyers when they represent you for some sort of lawsuit and they take like 30% of your winnings. Now that's pure alpha in financial speak, meaning if you didn't hire that lawyer, you wouldn't have any of that money in the first place. Right. Right. So if they do directly get you, $1 million lawsuit settlement, sure, they should take a cut of it. That's not what we do in financial advising. And those that manage investments, again, are fooling themselves if they think they're uniquely responsible for the client's portfolio going up. They're not. So don't charge on it. I'm kind of ranting now, but that's the place I came from. How I came up with
I like it. It's pure and it makes sense and it's simple and it's rational. And I think people out there are going, man, that's the way it should be. And I guess when you started the business in 2019, you followed your passion and you say, well, how would I like it? how do I think it should work? And that
That's
from
exactly it.
there, here we are with you with a waiting list and not taking any new clients on. But for people out there, that doesn't mean don't sign up for his newsletter. He is working on some things that can't be revealed right now, just from the standpoint of potential referrals to people that are in this space I just referred to recently. In the world of do-it-yourself investors, you almost have to reprogram those people, I would think, a little bit to not just think like you do, but have realistic expectations of the process. Can you kind of go through some examples of that, and maybe some of the hurdles people have with going to someone like you, or someone that isn't trying to find them the next Tesla? You're trying to find them lifestyle and peace of mind and turnkey.
Yes. That's the challenge. A lot of people equate advisor with simply someone who's going to try to beat the markets. So to be like, my advisor got me X%. What did yours do?
Yeah.
And investment management, even good investment management, has become increasingly cheap, easy, and commoditized to do and do well. Again, I worked in institutional investments. I've seen the best and the brightest bespoke, unique strategies, hedge funds, private equity funds that all thought they had some alpha and edge.
Yeah.
And some did really well. A lot did not. And most of them just sort of hovered around, the returns that indexes would provide.
Sure.
Yet they charge 2% of assets under management and 20% of profit. So go figure. The value in good planning and advice isn't investment management. And I tell my clients this: any monkey with a computer can do what I do from an investment perspective. There's some value to be had, but that is by far not the biggest piece of value. I'm a passive index-based guy. I do that myself personally and for clients. Now, there's some folks out there that say accumulation is different than decumulation. 1,000% accurate, but that doesn't mean you still can't use traditional investment products. Just rethink the way you use them and manage them from a decumulation perspective. So what I've found with my clients is a lot of them are already quite educated about financial stuff, and that's how they found me, by seeking out the content I make. So they were already sort of DIY passive investors to start with and know the investments well. And most people can do accumulation well in life. It's the decumulation where things get more tactical and complicated, because there's a bunch of things merging. There's, okay, I saved all these assets. Now I have some in tax deferred accounts like my 401k. I have regular brokerage assets. Maybe I have some Roth assets. I got cash value life insurance. I got Social Security. How does that tie in? I got a pension. What do I do with that? I got home equity. Tying all this stuff together into a cohesive action plan to how to turn this all into income while trying to manage the tax efficiency and keep taxes as low as reasonably possible over the long term. That's what I do. Investments are a part of it, but it's a small part of it. The actual carrying out of investing and trading and rebalancing is commoditized, is easy, and it takes no more time for a $5 million account as it does a $500,000 account. 100% truth.
Is this your passion? Is this what you're going to do the rest of your life? Besides
I hope
try
so.
to play mandolin and banjo?
I did try to pick up guitar a few years ago and did not go well.
I understand.
I understand banjo would be even more difficult. It is. And as you mentioned, my business is at capacity. I hit it in 2 years. I am a true solo. I've zero assistants, and that's intentional. But that doesn't mean I don't want to keep trying to better the industry, or at least what I perceive to be bettering the industry. It doesn't mean I'm not going to keep beating the drum about the value and benefit of flat fees. They're not perfect. No fee model is perfect. But I think in the right circumstance, like mine, again, homogenous pool of clients, all kind of getting and doing the same things, flat fee makes sense. Percent of assets is flat out dumb. And just continuing to educate about not just the industry, but the products, the strategies, the things I talk about in the Facebook group and YouTube. I am truly passionate about that. So I don't want my business, my day job, to completely consume me. I do not work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And there's some times of the year where I am much busier than others. But my goal is to have clients that I can properly serve and service well, without anything falling through the cracks and without stretching myself too thin. but still giving me time to follow what else I'm passionate about, the education of this stuff, the trying to change the industry from the inside out and just spread the message about things I think are important, that I think clients think are important.
Wayne Gretzky, hockey player, always said, I don't skate behind the puck. I skate where the puck's going to be. And I always like to ask people like you, who I consider visionaries in the space, you're pioneers. Where's the puck? Where are you skating? Where's the puck going in the financial world and with your business?
Man, you're giving me way too much credit. I'm far from a visionary.
You are, believe me.
I think a lot of other advisors, some flat out don't get it, and will, I do get in heated debates / arguments on LinkedIn and other venues about fee models.
Right.
Maybe I push buttons too hard, and I do get soapboxy at times, which I'm trying to work on that. But I think a lot of advisors get where I'm coming from, and I've had lots of advisors reach out to me like, "Man, I love how you're doing. I thought about that before. I didn't think it could be done." Part of the problem is advisors may be hamstrung. If you already have a business built on percent of AUM, you got 100 clients or whatever it is, you can't just turn and start charging everyone a flat fee. It means you're going to have to charge a lot of clients more and a lot of clients less. And that's going to be awkward conversations on both sides.
It is.
So even if existing advisors genuinely feel flat fee makes more sense, they may not be able to do it. Whereas I had the benefit of starting from scratch. I can structure this fee however I wanted. With no reservations or problems.
Take it or leave it. This is it.
Exactly.
I love it.
And so I hit it hard. The message was clear from day one. My positioning, my messaging was retirement decumulation focus. That right there is a bit of a standout because most advisors are just accumulation. Tax focused. A lot of advisors flat out can't do tax. If you work at a big wirehouse or insurance company, they will tell you are not allowed to do tax planning.
Correct.
Right. And then flat fee. So that one by itself is a huge differentiator. The other two aren't complete differentiators, but big enough. But you package these three together, and that's what really clicked for me. Distribution focused, tax focused, flat fee. I've yet to find someone that hits those three things to the same extent I do, which is why I think those who did find me was like, boom. If they were looking for that, here I am, prepackaged. The messaging was clear, the content. Everything I put out there, they can see my knowledge, what I know, what I don't know. It's all, they knew what they were getting, and those that wanted it, it was a great match. And I think that's why I hit capacity within 2 years.
We both work for large wirehouse firms and big firms, and that's kind of both of our backgrounds. You're a lot younger than I am, but I work with firms that were absorbed, like Dean Witter was absorbed by Morgan Stanley, and Payne Weber was absorbed by Union Bank of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Is the traditional legacy brokerage model, in your opinion, too broken to fix?
It's not going to go away in my lifetime. It's slowly getting pressure to change from the outside and inside. The writing is on the wall that traditional brokerage product-focused relationships aren't the wave of the future. They're still going to always need to be there. People will always need the products that brokerages and insurance companies sell. I'm not, again, as much as it sounds like I am not downplaying the importance and necessity of those products.
Right.
What I am, I don't want to say downplaying, but what I don't agree with is people who only sell things trying to put themselves out to the world as broader, comprehensive advisors. Where am I going with this? Oh, the brokerage industry. I mean, anecdotally, you read investment news, you read other industry publications, and wirehouses and insurance companies have been trying to put more focus towards advisory business, percent of AUM, if nothing else, because it's good money. It's steady, stable, subject to market dips, obviously, but
it's an easy way to project revenue.
It's an easy way to project revenue. And they realize planning and advice is going to continue to be more in demand than just a product sale or just management of investments. So the industry is definitely, I don't want to say pivoting, but giving more attention to advice and planning. But they're going to struggle. By they, I mean like the brokerage industry at large, the insurance industry at large, are going to struggle to find ways to get there. They can't completely just shed off the businesses and products they have. They need to try to find a way to transition, or at least do both simultaneously somehow.
I know your process is just very solid, and it's facts based driven. But when we have black swan events like COVID or other countries invading, pick your country this month, it might be another one next month, and things happen that you don't foresee. From your standpoint, from a planning, I'm assuming that your clients, they're like everyone else, they're worried and concerned. What are you telling them during these times?
I got a few responses to that. One is to try to make the plan as good as it can be initially. And the plan should, in theory, account for stuff like this. We all know dips and geopolitical events and unpredictable inflation and oil prices and whatever are going to happen. So try to structure your plan as best as possible to account for those things. And now by plan, notice I didn't just say structure your investments and didn't just say structure your insurance or whatever. The plan is all those things working cohesively. So what I do, I like to think it's a mix of sort of the best of all worlds. It's not just insurance. It's not just investments. It's not just real estate. It's kind of everything. Guaranteed lifetime income is important. Social Security is one of the best things people can have. Last for life with inflation adjustments.
It's the best inflation annuity on the planet.
It really is. So maximize that and make the most out of that. It's definitely, a cornerstone of my process. If people have pensions, they're lucky enough to have traditional defined benefit pensions. Same thing. Let's get the most out of that, not just for you, but for your spouse if we're married.
Sure.
And then if you have annuities, if you have cash value life insurance, I don't just say shed them off, we'll invest. No, look at them. How can they be used? How can they be beneficial? And the analysis comes down to, my basic approach. Let's try to project out your expenses as best as we reasonably can. Now, there'll be a lot of, frankly, educated guessing because we're looking out 30 years into the future.
Sure.
But doesn't mean you don't have to do the exercise still. And try to figure out how much of those expenses are basic necessities versus fun stuff. And the underlying goal is cover as much of your basic necessities as possible with money that can't run out. Social Security, pension, and or annuity. If and when your basics are covered, then this is where it gets a little more gray and depends on the client. How sensitive are they to risks? Will they lose sleep if they see their portfolios go down? Are they gamblers at heart, on the other hand? Or do they have such a sizable nest egg that even under the worst of circumstances, they're not going to possibly be able to spend it down? That all helps decide, do we consider you buying more guaranteed income in the form of an annuity? Or are you okay with this remainder of your financial life being in an investable portfolio, traditional stock and bond type portfolio, layer in some cash as well, whether it's actual cash and banks or like multi-year guaranteed annuities or something.
Sure.
Factor all that in. So where I'm going with this is what you're referencing is the investable portfolio, right? Because if you have an annuity, if you have a Social Security, it doesn't matter what happens between Russia and Ukraine. It doesn't matter what oil prices are. Well, I mean, it does because of inflation, but your guaranteed income is there. Good. So it's just the investable pot that's impacted by this stuff. And in the analysis, in the plan, in meeting with clients to try to ferret out their risk tolerances, risk capacities, feelings towards risk, we set up the investable portfolio to have enough exposure to growth to meet whatever their goals may be it leaving a legacy, be it simply not running out, with not having so much risk that events like now, or what if the U.S. stock markets drop 30% like they did during COVID and don't bounce back anytime soon, aren't going to put them in a position of undue harm or real financial distress. And different clients have different tolerances for this stuff. Again, some at one extreme may want all of their income locked up in Social Security, pension, or annuities, in which case, great. That's the approach we'll take. Other clients are okay with this sort of hybrid approach of get the most you can from the lifetime income you have, and it's okay to invest the rest in a suitable portfolio.
Sure.
And then everywhere in between. So a long way of saying, in events like now, this was going to happen. I didn't specifically know Russia would invade Ukraine, but we knew some event would happen, especially the stock markets were long overdue for some sort of correction. I'm not surprised what's going on now is going on with the stock markets. I'm frankly surprised things aren't down more. S&P 500 is down a little over 10% as of when we're recording this, I think. I'm surprised it's not down more. I sort of hope it to go down more to further cool off the peak it was at. But this was already accounted for. Now, my messaging to clients when they sign up and, we go through this sort of courtship process before becoming formally in a relationship, is they know my views. They know I'm hands off, I'm passive. As long as your allocations, your guaranteed income is what it is, your investable portfolio, we dial in your allocations at the onset of the relationship, knowing bad events will happen. If and when they do, we don't change course. I rebalance every quarter. Systematically, without thought, without emotion. I do not try to market time or speculate because that's just gambling.
Yep.
Every quarter I go in, I rebalance portfolios back to the target allocation. Guess what? I'm going to rebalance in 10 days. Clients' stock allocations will be below what their targets are because stock markets are down. That means I'm going to sell out a bond fund, buy stock funds. That forces me to buy low, sell high. This automatic rebalancing. So I don't change any part of the process, and I don't go out of my way to write newsletters and get in front of people with events like this.
Good.
And I have mixed feelings about that. Now, I realize some clients do reach out to me, and I sort of feel like I should have got ahead of them, but I realize people will get nervous when stock markets drop 3% in a day. And when they see on the front page of the news, tanks rolling into the heart of Ukraine. But again, we knew stuff like this would happen. And I sort of feel like by me proactively going out of my way to send a special message to my clients, they may interpret that as, wow, if Andy feels like this is worth talking about, this must be bad. So I'm conflicted with what to do about this. So far, other than the few clients that have reached out to me, I have not proactively sent a newsletter or an email or proactively called clients. Now, if markets were to drop, 10% in a day or something, maybe then I probably should. But the correction, the dip, the reversal we're in now, this was par for the course. And I try to explain to folks, do not be surprised if and when stuff like this happens. It's happening. I don't want to draw special attention to it for again, getting people feared when I don't think this is undue reason for concern. So that's my thoughts on that. And I did previously, during COVID, I did send something out. And even like 6 months ago, I think I sent something out just recapping what my thought process is, what I will be doing during times of distress, and reiterating what people's plans are. Again, maximizing lifetime income where feasible, the rebalancing, sequence of I'm drawing a blank. When we do take distributions from portfolios, I
sequence of returns.
Yes. I don't just sell pro-rata slices of stuff across the portfolio. If stocks are down, I'm selling off the bond fund, not the stock fund. So what I sent clients a few months ago is just to reiterate the process, how times of distress will be handled, how your plan already accounts for stuff like this and already has action steps built into it that will help minimize and alleviate, to some extent, unwanted surprises in financial markets. So that's my view.
Have you, I'm sure you have, I just wanted to get you on the podcast to comment on it. Have you commented on crypto and the underlying blockchain revolution that's kind of happening? Would love to hear that from someone like you who's been around the block a little bit.
Yes. The blockchain, I think, definitely has potential to be revolutionary. Lots of potential use cases for how the blockchain can rewrite how things are done, how things are accounted for, how things are proved. I do not see blockchain going away, and it will only gain in importance. Crypto, specifically what people call cryptocurrencies, man, I struggle. I understand them well enough, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if crypto assets, I won't name specific names, but crypto assets continue their long-term meteoric rise and people make boatloads of money off them. I'd also put as much chance on crypto assets completely collapsing down to zero, close to it, whether it's because governments flat out shut them out or people realize it really is the epitome of the what is it? The greater sucker, the greater fool theory.
The tulip bulb theory is what I call it. Yeah, it could be.
There's truly zero intrinsic value to crypto assets. The value is 100% based on simple auction market pricing. Whatever someone's willing to pay for it, that's what it's worth. Now, again, because of that reason, they can go up forever, right? I'm not disputing it can't, but it can also collapse. There's literally zero value. You know, with stocks are sort of out there, a little esoteric, but in theory, you own share of a company, and if that company were to liquidate, you, the shareholder, gets paid out whatever's left. So there is some intrinsic value, right?
True.
Bonds, you know, things that have stated cash flows, their value is the cash flows they pay. Even precious metals. How do you value gold? I mean, at a minimum, it has some use value in making semiconductors and chips and jewelry. Right. So like that has value. Crypto has zero intrinsic value. So for that reason, I don't actively invest clients in crypto. If they ask me about it, my view is, if you want to put a small portion of your net worth in it, something you're comfortable completely potentially going to zero, 100% fine, right? View it as a lottery ticket. Maybe you quadruple, quintuple, 10-tuple your money.
Sure.
Maybe it goes to zero or close to it. I would not be surprised either way. I'll leave it there. That's one other rant on crypto, actually. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I want to hear it. It's fascinating.
The word currency, cryptocurrency, is such a misnomer. And this is why I think crypto as a medium of exchange will never fully catch on, because it's not a currency, it's an asset class. Every single time you buy something with crypto, what you're technically doing is selling a piece of that crypto. That sale will have tax implications. It's no different than you using a stock to buy something, you know, giving a share of stock to someone in exchange for a good or service. That's a taxable transaction. Now, when you frame it that way, which is the accurate way to frame it, I just, you know, the tax implications alone make it so unwieldy and burdensome for crypto to ever be a widely used medium of exchange. And the IRS is cracking down, and rightfully so. Now, the IRS is far behind in figuring out ways to properly think about and regulate crypto. I fully agree with that. But that doesn't mean crypto should continue this Wild West free reign of like anything goes. And the tax accounting for crypto transactions is nothing short of a nightmare, because there aren't standardized 1099s like there are for brokerage accounts and stuff.
Exactly.
So that concerns me. If and when the IRS continues to clamp down, a lot of people will get a lot of unwanted surprises with what they thought was their currency. It's not. They're exchanging a taxable asset for something else, and there's tax implications. So bringing it back to your question, blockchain, I see tremendous value and going great places. Crypto, it's a completely intangible cloud in the sky thing. That's sure, it may continue to go up. But it as a medium of exchange, I can't see practically how that'll ever fully take over. One-off things here and there, sure, but like as a replacement for dollars, no way.
Great insight, phenomenal insight. I was wondering with COVID, which was horrific. It's funny how it's just out of the news now at the time of this taping. We're not even talking about it anymore, but people are still dying. Has it pushed your clients to proactively ask more about legacy planning? Have you seen that? Or have people just kind of compartmentalized it and said, oh, that was a bad time, I don't want to talk about
it? Not wholesale, no. I mean, there were a couple clients who did say something along the lines of COVID made me much more aware of my own mortality. And so charitable giving and legacy plans became a little more important for those folks. But as a whole, no, I wouldn't say it was like a cultural shift in the way people think about what they want their advisors to address.
One of the things we do share is that I used to wear a T-shirt around the house when my two daughters were in dance classes, and it said, "I'm not the dancer, I'm the financier." And you have daughters that are in the dance world, so I smiled at that. I'm assuming they're young, correct?
Yep, they are 12 and 14.
Yeah. Mine are 25 and 23, and they just, they've moved on from good old dad. And a couple other things I think people would find interesting about Andy, which, if you haven't enjoyed this, you need to check yourself here, because he has been fantastic. He's a road cyclist. He's that guy on the road that's going at like 30 miles an hour on a bike. You're like, how does anybody do that? And he's also a runner. But here's the part that makes me mad at you, because if my wife finds this out, she's going to really be mad, is that you can remodel kitchens and bathrooms. in addition to being one of the best minds in the financials, you do that as well. Where did that come from? Are you just one of those guys that tries to figure that stuff out as you're making custom furniture as well?
Yeah, that's part of it. So I have to attribute the natural abilities and fascination to my father. So when we were growing up, he single-handedly remodeled our house due to lack of time and money. It took him, I think, 14 years. So my whole childhood was around various forms of demolition and construction in our house. And I remember one Christmas, he was in the process of redoing the living room. Walls were gutted. There's no insulation, no sheetrock. And it was cold. We live in New Jersey. And, we celebrated Christmas with a small little Christmas tree on the table saw, which was in the living room at the time, with no walls. We all had jackets on because it was that cold in the house. And that was a large part of my childhood. So I was always helping build, fix,
there you go.
Get a tool for him. And I don't know, when I was in college, I just sort of had this desire to make things with my hands and started watching a lot of TV shows about woodworking and home improvements. When I got out of school, moved into my own house, rental house with my wife,
Sure.
then girlfriend. I built a birdhouse, in the kitchen of our apartment at the time, and just slowly progressed to doing
the first step.
Projects.
That's the first step, the birdhouse. The birdhouse. So I need to commission the Andy Panko table or coffee table. I need to get that from you.
If you want to see some of my stuff, go to pankowoodworks.com.
Pankowoodworks.com.
It's
you know what's funny? I'm going to put that on your site. So pankowoodworks.com.
Now, it's not a business. It's really just me kind of having a place to show some of my projects and things I've done. But anyway.
Well, that's fantastic. One last question, just because I call it T9, but it's Tenant Financial, Tenon Financial. What's that mean?
Woodworking term. Oh, interesting story. So I'll first give you the sappy, typical.
I want the sappy one first. I'm from the South. Yeah.
Sappy one, typical cheesy one is I'm passionate about woodworking. That's a fact. And so I wanted a name for my business that ties into me and what I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Also, tenon is a type of woodworking joint, a mortise and tenon.
Okay.
A tenon is a square peg that goes into a square hole. Simple, but super sturdy. So if you wanted the fuzzy, nice information, it's that tenon is indicative of a good plan, doesn't need to be complicated or carried away to be effective. The mortise and tenon joint is one of the simple yet strongest woodworking joints there is. So that's how I envision my financial planning. It doesn't need to be difficult to be good. That's a sappy story.
I love that. Let's give the hardline sort of story. What's the hardline story on that?
The biggest limiting factor in trying to come up with a name for my business was website domain availability.
Exactly.
I wanted something short and sweet. I didn't want like blah, 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 financial.com that would take a half hour to type. I didn't want my name in the company. I didn't want something -FA or -FP. I wanted just like something, 2 words. And for the life of me, I spent weeks and had agita over coming up with every single word I can think of.
I like it.
Searching for web domain availability. I did all the typical cheesy stuff, things about lighthouses and compasses and blueprints, like all the corny, cheesy stuff that is so endemic in financial advisory.
But I like it. Tenant, and of the percentage of clients that you've talked to, how many understood what that meant?
Nobody cares.
I care.
Well, what I'm saying is they hire me because they know Andy from Facebook or YouTube. They do not give a squat about my company name.
So you don't have any professional woodworkers that go, you know what? That name right there sold me.
Oh, man, funny story. So I forgot to mention this in my early stages of business development. So March 2020, I took a gamble on business development, and there's a national woodworking expo that tours the country. And they fill up like huge expo halls. And
Please tell me you had a booth. Please tell me you had a booth.
I bought a table. I
love it.
So I went to this expo every year for the last 15 years as an attendee. And it's all like tool manufacturers, woodworking guilds, and whatever. Yeah. And I thought, Tenant Financial, I thought a few things. Thousands of potentially my target market. Woodworkers are typically older, 50 plus.
Sure.
So right there, that's one good sign. They'll see my sign, Tenant Financial. Everyone in that room is going to know what a tenant is.
Right.
I'd hope it would spark some like, oh yeah, I have a natural affinity with this guy because of woodworking, as opposed to someone from, major wirehouse,
I love
whatever.
it.
And so for $3,000, I bought a table. I bought a bunch of signage.
Yeah.
I made up custom business card holders. My own woodwork out of walnut
course.
to
Of
display.
course.
I had these on display. I had custom mechanical pencils. Woodworkers love mechanical pencils because the points are always sharp.
Sure.
And easy to refill. So I made up mechanical pencils with Tenant Financial on it. Absolute bust. Over the course of the weekend, I gave out maybe 3 business cards. I gave away probably 300 pencils just to get rid of them. I had a conversation with 5 people maybe while I was there. 0 follow-up afterward. So I knew it was risky. I knew the chances of success were probably small, but I was like, this is either going to be a tremendous flop or a stroke of genius. It was a tremendous flop. But I'm glad I did it. It was a good experience, and it helped me realize I'm not that guy. I wasn't out working the room. I was standing in front of my booth. I had a computer monitor set up with e-money where I can show people like, yeah, this is the cool stuff I can do. But I wasn't out there like patting backs and, trying to drum up business, and that's not me. I'm
that's a
sort of
great
glad
marketing
pandemic happened.
story.
Yeah. Pandemic forced me to get online and get active socially.
Yeah.
And find my voice virtually. And that's what really clicked for me.
Marketing's an art, not a science. We all know that. I mean, it's hard. It's hard work. But hey, we kind of ran out of time. But I'm going to hold you to coming back because I'm going to make you tell a joke. So I'm going to give you preparation up front. We'll bring you back on the show and have you dig in and tell us what's new in your world. Because I have this strange feeling here that we're catching you really early. And real happy to do that because I think your future is really, really bright because I think you're going to do some things that you haven't even thought of yet from marketing and expansion of the idea and the strategy which is needed out here. So we really appreciate you being on the program, and I appreciate every single one of you out there listening on the podcast platforms and on watching us on the YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time on Fun with Annuities. Thanks for listening to Fun with Annuities. Please hit the subscribe button and make sure to go to my site at theannuityman.com where you can run your own SPIA, DIA, and QLAC quotes and see a live feed of the best MYGA fixed rates in the country and even get indexed and income rider quotes as well. You can also sign up for my 6 Annuity Owner's Manual books and I'll ship them for free and under no obligation. I also encourage you to schedule a one-on-one call with me, Stan the Annuity Man, so we can have a full discussion of your specific situation. It will be the best brutally factual and truthful advice you will ever get, and that's one guarantee you should definitely take advantage of. So join me next time for the #1 annuity podcast on the planet, Fun with Annuities.